Welcome back to BRN Test Drive. I'm James, and this is the 2025 Volvo EX30. I spent my entire week with the single-motor rear-wheel drive version of the EX30, and you can tell it is an extremely compact vehicle. Matter of fact, it's Volvo's smallest vehicle to date. It's also Volvo's smallest footprint to date because they've used a lot of recycled plastics to actually reduce their carbon footprint. It's the smallest footprint on the Volvo lineup. Now, if you were to option the all-wheel drive version of the EX30, you would also have the quickest vehicle on the Volvo lineup as well. Now, Volvo has went with a very simplistic and minimalistic design for the new EX30. You can see that on the exterior. You can also see that on the interior, but it made me ask the question, how simple is too simple? Because let's take my key fob, for example. I have no physical buttons on the key fob. I can't lock or unlock or even start the vehicle from a physical button on the key fob. It is all proximity. I walk away, the vehicle locks. I come back and the vehicle unlocks. There's of course a sensor on the driver's side door to unlock the car manually, but it still is one of the examples of just how simple it is. So let's start off by looking at the battery. We have a 69 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery with 65 kilowatt hours that are actually usable. That's going to be good for a range of 420 kilometers. But again, it is worth noting that I have not actually seen that much range at 100%. I haven't surpassed 400 yet. Now, I've had it during a week where it's been really cold outside. We're in the minuses always, all the time when I'm charging and just when I'm driving. So that probably is affecting the range, but I have not seen it go over 400 kilometers at 100% yet. Like I said, we have the single motor, and so this is the rear wheel drive. That's gonna output 268 horsepower, 253 pound-feet of torque. And as you can see, this thing has a very small frame. So those numbers make this rear wheel drive version extremely quick. Now we'll quickly mention charging. If you can find yourself a DC 175 kilowatt hour fast charger, you're gonna charge from 10 to 80% in just around 28 minutes, which is competitive with the rest of the EV market. So no worries there. So let's first talk about the design overall for the Volvo EX30. Like I said, it is Volvo's smallest car to date. And you can definitely see it. When you look at it from the side profile, you can see just how little of a presence it has on the road. It also kind of drives like that as well, but I actually don't mind the design. I think it's really cool. We still have the classic, kind of hammer, Thor's hammer, daytime running LEDs up front. I like it. We've got a front-facing camera. We've got parking sensors. We do have a full 360-degree camera setup here, so I really enjoy that. And we also have a front trunk, which is a nice touch. It's not the most convenient thing to get to. You got to go inside, pull a lever, and then you can access it, and there isn't a ton of storage in there, but I like to at least have an EV that has those features, so that's nice. I've also got the standard aero wheels here, nothing crazy, but I like them as well. Another thing that stood out to me was trunk space. I was surprised by how much trunk space they actually give you. There's a little graphic on the interior that shows you, will it fit? Apparently it could fit things like the stroller, the suitcases. Obviously it fits all my groceries and different things like that. So I really didn't have a problem with trunk space this week. The tailgate is also automatic. Out in the back as well, I also kind of like the dual layered tail lights. They look very nice. It's not a bar, but it looks like it very well could be at some point a light bar in the back, but it's very nice, classic Volvo design still, while keeping things new and refreshing. The exterior design overall for the Volvo EX30 is actually quite impressive for what they've done in such a small little package. Last thing I really enjoyed was the frameless mirrors. They are small, but they don't actually feel that small because you don't have any bezels around the mirror. It's a small little Volvo touch, but I always love it on all their cars. So overall, exterior wise, it is extremely little, but I think it has a decent amount of personality while still staying extremely simple. Now, let's hop on the interior where things get a little more interesting. All right, so now I'm sitting inside the rear for the Volvo EX30, a place where if you're a fully grown adult, you just don't have that much room. I'm doing this behind the passenger seat because if I were to sit behind my driver profile, it just wouldn't feel that comfortable. I don't think I would be even able to fit for any long period of time. Headroom wise, a ton of it. And I also love this one singular piece of glass that goes all the way across the roof here, and it's really, really clean and cool. I really enjoy it. I'm not a sunroof kind of person. I don't open the sunroof usually, so if I have one piece of glass, this is a really cool touch. Now, I will say I like the design of the rear seats. I like the kind of the black leather and the blue stitching, and then on the door panels is where you can kind of see some of that recycled plastic, as well as like, you know, the pillars here, you can see it as well. I like the door handles as well. Extremely simple. We've got like an interesting armrest. We've got a huge amount of pocket storage on the side here as well, but my knees are pushing into this seat. I don't have a lot of room for my feet either. Now, if you have small children, you're probably not going to have this problem. If you don't have a family of fully grown adults, you can probably make the EX30 work. But I am not a child. I am unfortunately a full-grown adult when it comes to the EX30. So yeah, couldn't do a road trip back here. But last thing we got is we've got 2 window switches here attached to kind of the center console. There's no vents or anything. There's some storage in the center console there as well. And we've got 2 USB-C ports. So, you know, your small kids can charge iPads and stuff like that back here. And they will probably be relatively comfortable. I don't think that's going to be the issue. I think the issue is, you know, people that are, you know, have a ton of legs to, to squeeze inside the Volvo EX30. So overall with the back seat, it is small, it is compact, but that's kind of what you expect when you get into this segment. So let's hop up front and let's check out the absolute simplicity that is up there. All right, so in the business end, up front for the Volvo EX30, a ton more room up here, although when I sit in the driver profile, it kind of feels like I'm operating the vehicle from the back seat. But as you can see, like I said in the beginning of the video, a very simplistic interior. There is as little physical buttons as I think Volvo could think of. It has a very Tesla-inspired formula with just the one screen where my speedometer is here. I have absolutely no gauge cluster, and you know, everything is going to be controlled by the screen, including my speed, my drive gear selector. I can see it's right there. You know, anything vital about the car, it's all through this iPad screen right here. So let's go over it. You get this nice kind of squared off Volvo steering wheel, which I actually enjoy. It's a little thin, but I do still enjoy it. I kind of like the feeling of it. Now, steering is another side that we'll have to talk about when I take it on the road, but we have kind of this one button that, you know, kind of has sensors onto where you're touching it, which is interesting. Right-hand side, you have your volume controls as well as the microphone button for the Google Assistant should you want to use it. Then left-hand side, I have my cruise control stuff, my lane centering, different things like that is going to be right there, standard stuff. Behind the steering wheel, like I said, no gauge cluster, but I do have this sensor that is watching my eyes to make sure that I'm always watching the road. I have some thoughts on the sensors and stuff like that, but again, it's something that is more related to the driving part, so we'll talk about that in just a second. Again, you can see the recycled material in here. It's really present in the front. Love the door handles, like I said. It's got nice vents. Everything's like very nicely designed. I feel like everything's very ergonomic. The seating position is really good. The seats are actually quite comfortable. I don't have any problems there. I've got one soundbar up front with the Harman Kardon. It's actually probably the best Harman Kardon sound setup I've heard. I did have to tune it to my liking, but it's still one of the number ones. And so there's no speakers or no controls or anything like that in the door. From what I understand, that actually saves some costs. So, you know, our window controls are instead right here in the middle. And then to access the rear controls, I have to click the button that, like, it's not even a haptic button, it's just like a button that I click it, and then I can control the rear with the front 2 dials here. So interesting design. We've seen that kind of on something, I think we saw that on the Volkswagen, and I didn't enjoy it. I don't love it here. The good thing is it's winter and I'm not really rolling my windows down rear or front for any reason because it's cold, so I haven't had a problem with that. So now let's talk about the big piece, the main controller of the vehicle, the screen. It is all through here. Now, things are relatively laid out. At least Volvo gave us some quick controls to kind of do things like control my exterior lights, my mirrors, and check this out. When I talk about the mirror, so say I want to adjust my mirrors, I have to click the mirrors, and then it does the same thing if you've ever seen my Tesla video on the Model 3, where if you want to adjust your mirrors, you click the button, and now I have to use the controls on the steering wheel to do it because there simply isn't any other physical buttons to do that with. Now, it works well. It's just, again, one of those things where it's like, how simple is too simple? Is that too much, you know? Also, same thing for the glove box. If I want my glove box to open, I gotta click the glove box opening button and it opens right here in the center. I like it, it's cool, but it wouldn't have hurt to just have like a little pull or like something. It wouldn't have taken away from the minimalistic design. I can also control like my different assistant stuff, like the driver alert thing. I can turn that off if I want. I also have the one pedal drive, and I can open and close my automatic tailgate. I got rain sensing wipers here. I can see it all really easy. It's got a car status. It's gonna tell you, your days to service, different things like that, the stuff you'd expect. You can go in your settings, you can change the lighting from here and all that cool stuff. I also have Spotify built in. I got Waze built in. This is very much an Android automotive run system from what I can tell, and it works very well. But of course, you still have your wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto that you can use, and that also works no problem. I did enjoy just getting into the car, pushing down on the drive lever and just driving. There's no idle, there's nothing to do. But yeah, this screen does take a lot of getting used to, and it is, it does feel like really weird at the beginning because, usually Volvo is not a Tesla, but then you get into it and it kind of feels a lot like a Model Y, or like, because the Y is the SUV version of the Tesla. So it just feels a lot like that. So my climate controls are all controlled here too. Got dual zone, I got heated seats, heated steering, no ventilation in my tester here. Got an air quality monitor as well. All of it's like there and it's cool. It just takes a little bit to figure it out and to play with it, especially with the HVAC controls. I would have preferred to see physical buttons. I'm sure a lot of people would as well. Like maybe something here, along the dash would have been easy and you could still keep it. I think I'm somebody who still prefers a gauge cluster because especially at first, it took me a while for my eyes to adjust to glancing over. And I just feel like it takes your eyes off the road a little bit too much. So a little bit lower from the screen, I do have a wireless charging port and a good amount of storage on the bottom here where the center console is. And then we have this guy that I can kind of push and it will bring out kind of a cup holder tray or just a general storage tray, and you can use it like that. I like that. You can kind of stow it away when you don't need it, and again, it makes everything look a little bit more open concept, if you will. So yeah, a very simple, it's sometimes awkward to get used to and use interior, but I don't absolutely hate it. It's just absolutely not my favorite thing in the world. I'm a buttons guy through and through, and so when you take those away, I have a little bit of a struggle to use it. But let's take it on the road, and let me talk to you about how it drives. All right, so on the road now with the Volvo EX30. Look, it's been a pretty easy week. I mean, like, it's simple, the interior and exterior stuff like that, but it's also pretty, convenient at times, when things work. That's the thing. But honestly, the thing that's impressed me the most about the driving is the ride quality. How comfortable this little compact SUV is. Usually, some compact SUVs are not able to be that comfortable just because they're so small, so they don't have that much suspension tuning or anything like that. This has no adaptive suspension from what I understand, or nothing at all like that, but it is extremely comfortable. It is extremely well done. And I know when I drive on Quebec roads with a car with good ride quality, I notice it right away, and it's always impressive. And this Volvo is really, really good. I've been hitting potholes, speed bumps and everything, but I barely feel them. It is really high quality feeling. And this isn't like the all-wheel drive. You wouldn't expect such a good ride quality, but let me tell you, this thing is extremely comfortable ride quality wise. I could do a road trip up here, no problem. As long as I'm in the front seat and I'm in the driver's seat, I should be fine to do a road trip because it is really that comfortable. Now, I do have a little bit of power, like I said, just over 260 horsepower in here. So with a small little compact frame like this one, that tends to give you quite a bit of a jolt, right? So let's just put the power down a little bit here. A little bit of rear spin, but nothing much. And yeah, this little car can move. I think it's something like 0 to 100 kilometers in about 5.8 seconds, which is, for something in this class that's this small, is actually pretty impressive. So no problem approaching highway speeds, no problem overtaking slower traffic. Nothing like that is going to be an issue to you. It's just very easy to get up to speed. We've also got one pedal driving, but that's one of the things that I just couldn't figure out how to actually do it. It's almost like a one pedal coast. It will come to a complete stop eventually, but it doesn't have the same kind of weight that a lot of the one pedal driving stuff that I've used. It's possible that I simply could not find the setting for it, and that's what it was. So I'm not sure if the one pedal driving is just something that I couldn't figure out how to make it, actually feel heavy and truly one pedal drive, because although it's on, I still feel like I have to touch the brake quite a bit to slow down, quick enough, which is something that's a little on the interesting side. So, I don't hate it though. I kind of prefer nowadays to have, you know, a little bit of brake input as well, and it kind of coasts and it'll give you a little bit of, you know, efficiency back. So that's good. You know, it's just weird. The whole vehicle is strange, right? It's just not a normal design. And I think like when you copy Tesla, when you do the one screen kind of format, it kind of has this thing where it's like, well, it's already been done, and it also kind of makes the car feel more of an appliance and less like a vehicle. When you take the gauge cluster away, like Volvo has always had very simplistic and minimalistic kind of gauge clusters and screens and stuff like that, but they've always been both. So they've always kind of still felt like a car to me in that aspect. And I just feel like the EX30 is just throwing that out the window. Now it feels more just as something, as like an appliance, as like something like a Tesla would be. And yeah, it's just interesting. It's just maybe a little bit too simple for my liking. The one issue, or like probably the biggest issue that I have when it comes to driving the EX30, is in the handling, because it's so strange. It has something called steering assist, which I absolutely turned off because the steering feels like just really dead. It feels like I have to put a lot more input for like not that much steering, if that makes sense. So like I'm gonna turn right here, and like it just feels like if I turn like this much, I feel like I have to turn the wheel quite a bit to get it to do what I want it to do, and the steering assist actually makes that a lot worse. Like I'm not somebody who like needs to feel every inch of the road through the steering wheel, and I need the sporty feeling at all times. I just need something, and I just feel like this steering wheel gives me nothing, even when I'm, you know, trying to tune it the way that I want to. It's just a weird thing. In parking lots and stuff, it's actually not that bad, but for some reason when I'm at speeds, like highway speeds, it just feels like I have to turn the wheel a lot more than I'd want to, or that I would be expected to, for, you know, what the car kind of is. It's just a little interesting. Now, visibility is really, really good. Like I said, I love the frameless mirrors, no problem there. I enjoy, you know, the views that I get, but the one thing is sometimes that when I'm like looking over, if I do a shoulder check here and I do a shoulder check there, sometimes the sensor will not see my eyes anymore, and it will start yelling at me that, well, I have to keep my eyes on the road. So I've turned off the kind of driver attention thing because it is extremely sensitive. Even if I like play with the sensitivity, it doesn't seem to make a difference for me. So like if I'm trying to access something, because everything's through the screen, right? So if I'm trying to change my music or like navigate or something, it will eventually start to yell at me quite aggressively to pay attention to the road. And it's like, I'd love to do that, but I'm like going through these different menus to find the setting that I want, because everything is in the infotainment display. Everything is connected right here. So it's like, it's a little difficult to do both. And so it does almost serve as a distraction, while that wasn't the point. The point of the screen is to be a convenience, you know, everything in one spot, quick access, boom, boom, you got everything you need, and you don't have that many buttons, and it's all good. So, you know, when it's, you know, constantly beeping at you to be like, hey, pay attention to the road, it's like, I would love to. I just really need this setting to be off or on, or I really need to open my glove box right now because I need something. You know, it's just one of those little things, again, where oversimplification becomes a little bit of a complication at times. Like when this thing works, it's great. And that's kind of like another thing with me. It was like, when I look at this as if I'm going to go and buy this car right away. And one thing that prohibits me, or that I probably wouldn't buy this car is and that's just specifically for my need, is just that I think that there's maybe too much room for error. There's too much room for this screen to just absolutely turn off on me, and I lose about like 90% of the vehicle's function. I can no longer navigate. I can no longer control the climate control. I don't even know if the doors still unlock if this screen goes off. I have no idea. It hasn't happened, but I don't know long term if I would ever have issues, or if others have had issues. That's where you, the viewer, is going to have to tune in. But of course, when it works, it's actually pretty good. There's a lot of convenience things in here. There's a lot of quick access stuff. I think Volvo have done their best to kind of change up the game while also still remaining kind of simple in their own way. I just think you maybe pushed it a little bit too far. Like, give me a button on my key fob in case, you know? Like, I just think those things like that is just a little bit too much, because Tesla already does that. And if people want it to have that kind of experience, they'll probably buy a Tesla, because 60 grand is almost in Tesla's kind of field, and you're not really doing anything that's wildly different from them. So, you know, I just feel like Tesla already has that kind of simplistic market on lock. I feel like Volvo really has to differentiate themselves quite a bit more if they want to truly attack that market. But there's still quite a big fan base. Like, I've looked on Reddit, you know, people are still buying these, and there's a reason for it. Is because, you know, Volvo has a really good design language. It still looks a little bit more like a car exterior wise than a Tesla does. The ride quality is really good, and I'm sure a lot of people can make the compact work. If you live in a city or somewhere with tight parking, you want an electric vehicle, this is actually perfect because it's got a smaller footprint than any Tesla available right now. So that's really good news as well. So you know what? Personally, the screen, not for me. You know, the way that it drives is completely fine other than the handling. The comfort, the ride quality is absolutely phenomenal. They've done such a good job. You know, I'm just a buttons guy, and I'm just a gauge cluster guy, and I think I'll always be like that. It's why I never bought a Tesla, despite kind of wanting one when they came out, and I started driving other EVs that felt a little bit more like cars, and then that kind of switched my mind. But let me know what you think. Do you like it? Do you think that it is an oversimplification where it can become a complication? Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the car. Let me know, are you in the market for one? Have you bought one? I want to know all of your thoughts here on the Volvo EX30. That being said, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you next week. See you next car. Take care.